coming up on today's show.
So the theme word concept is that thinking big for the new year and using the context of what you're thinking to be your intention and capturing it with a single word or two or three words.
It's kind of interesting because, I've been kind of playing around with my word for the year, but I can't quite articulate it. So maybe by the end of the show, we can work through some of that.
Some of my clients are really about their connection. They feel like sometimes with their ADHD, it keeps them from fully connecting to people. So some of their words are mindful, or the word connection or relationship.
Setting goals for people with ADHD, part 2, today on Keeping You Organized. Well, hello, welcome to Keeping You Organized. If you joined us last time, we had part 1 of this episode where we're talking about setting goals for people with ADHD, and we started parking on this concept of a theme word to kind of set your intentions. And we're going to bring back Ellen DeLapp, professional-organizer.com. Ellen, welcome back to Keeping You Organized.
Well, thanks for having me, John. I love being here with you and Leanne.
Yeah. So last time we were talking about goal setting for people with ADHD. I think some of this applies to just about anybody, but we talked about how ADHD people are dreamers. They can think big pretty well. Sometimes they come up with too many goals, so we kind of narrow those down. But then we started talking about this concept of setting your intention with theme words. Why don't you just kind of recap a little bit the concept behind that?
So the theme word concept is that thinking big for the new year and using the context of what you're thinking to be your intention and capturing it with a single word or two or three words, depending on if they're personal or business or work-life balance. Yeah. So creating that word to help you stay on track for the year.
Awesome. And I know when we talked to you last time, we revealed your word for the year, which is expand, right? And you're going to expand your client base. You're going to be doing some new stuff on YouTube and things like that. So how did you come up with that word anyway?
It really took me a while to come up with that word because there's a lot of things that I've been thinking about this year as I transition into being less active in my volunteering roles. And so I just really thought about where I wanted to go big. And that's where expand came from.
Right. Great. So when we're talking about theme words, what advice do you have for people when they're trying to pick a word? What are some parameters?
I think it's really attractive to think about keeping it simple. Like we're really in a very complex universe right now, and the world, it seems very complicated and things aren't simple as they used to be. So start simple with your word. So, we're drawn to phrases, thinking about just a single word that captures the essence of where you want to go in this year.
Right.
Also, keeping it short as a result too.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's kind of interesting because, I've been kind of playing around with my word for the year, but I can't quite articulate it. So maybe by the end of the show, we can work through some of that. But what are some examples maybe from some of your other clients, their words, and what's the motivation behind them?
So some of my clients really think about their productivity a lot. So they're talking about words like completion, organization, and just general words that apply to getting more stuff done, I would say. Some of my clients are really about their connection. They feel like sometimes with their ADHD, it keeps them from fully connecting to people. So some of their words are mindful, or the word connection or relationship. And so that just keeps them drawn to being sure that they're making that connection on a routine and enough. Sometimes there's a lag in communication. So communication might be their word. Yeah. So Tom, tell me a little bit about where you're thinking you're going with something you want to go big with this year.
Yeah, well, I think mine is more of a what I would call personal development. So I think what I do is sometimes I don't think before I talk, and I'll speak some words out that are either words I don't want to say or I'm not saying them maybe clear enough, or they're, I want the words to have the right meaning and impact without, either criticizing or saying the wrong words. So that's where I've been kind of, because I know there's like clarity, there's, impact, there's, misunderstanding. I mean, there's a lot of kinds of things, but what I really want to do is probably think before I talk and say, intentional, is another word I kind of go, but, being intentional with your words, I think is important, but it's just a little bit different than that. So now have I totally confused you? Or can
Not
you
at
tell
all.
that I have
actually just thought
ADHD?
of a word. No, I love that because I feel like a lot of my clients haven't even gotten to that awareness.
Yeah.
So I think you're actually ahead of the game there, John, because I think sometimes the word pause comes to mind. Some of the other words that might come to mind are reflection or intention.
Yeah.
So it sounds to me like you want to insert something before you move to action. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. Something where, when I finally get to that point where I'm speaking, I know what I'm saying is exactly what I want to say and not what I don't want to say. So yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I think you have some possibilities though with some words that have to do with intention and pause and reflection, because that intentionality will bring that forward. And what I found with my word is whenever I come to a time that I'm feeling like I'm not really balanced, my word has really come to thought for me and reminded me all year long. And so that's why I know how powerful this word is. I use it myself. So finding a word that really resonates with you is going to make that happen for you too.
Right. Now, I just had a great thought about a word, but we're going to take a break. I'm going to tease people. And so I want to tell you that because something just in talking to you here, something, the light bulb just went on, and I think we may have solved this. Plus, I want to talk more about choosing your theme word. So hang on, folks. We'll be right back with Ellen DeLapp talking about, setting goals for people with ADHD and that theme word, and you'll figure out what I came up with in just a moment. Get organized now at myorganize.life. Need to turn those piles into files? We've got you covered. Hundreds of organizing products in a dazzling array of colors and sizes. There's an organizing solution for you. Shop online and they're delivered right to your office. Get organized now. Go to myorganize.life. That's myorganize.life. Get organized now at myorganize.life. We're back now on Keeping You Organized, talking about setting goals for people with ADHD, and we've kind of drilled down a little bit into this concept of establishing a theme word for the year that helps, maybe take the goal and solidify it a little bit more, keep it simple. And we're with Ellen DeLapp, professional-organizer.com. So Ellen, I teased them before the break, right? I love it. Here's what I came up with. So when you talked about pause, which I think is really is the critical action point, and that might be the word. But part of also what I kind of feel like in my life right now is things are super hectic. And I told my wife the other day, I go, I just need like some time to like relax and not be running from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. I just need I need to pause. So I think if I know the context of the word, because pause can also mean stop doing everything. And
right.
I just need some pauses in the day where I'm not doing anything else, but I have a pause. And I think that'll also help. It's kind of a double play there with, pause before I talk. Because probably one of the reasons I just, do this and, splurt things out is because I'm not taking time to think. So anyway, what do you think about that?
Wow, John, I'm pretty excited about this word for you. I think it has so many different applications for you.
Yeah.
In terms of your physicalness, pause to reset, pause to relax, pause to talk. So I'm pretty excited. I want to check back with you later in the year and see how this has really played out for you.
That's great. And I think that brings up the point of review. I was thinking before the break, my wife and I do this. We've done this for years too. We come up with words. Her word for last year was breakthrough. And she's got she homeschools kids, but she also has a business on the side, and her
Wow.
business has really exploded. And I think it's because she's kind of been intentional thinking about that. And so it's kind of neat to see that after looking for a year that, okay, that's neat. So anyway,
That's exciting.
yeah. So let's talk about review and check in. How does that work?
Yeah.
And especially with people with ADHD, which is kind of our main topic. How do you work with an ADHD client to say, hey, how's that going with that pause word or whatever it is?
Right. Many of my ADHD clients and I have like these milestones, like quarterly check-ins with each other, just to be sure things are going along well. Like part of it is reviewing last year and thinking about, well, what went well and what might I want to do differently, but also where, like I said, where do I want to go big? And then I always do a little check-in with my clients just to be sure they're staying on track. I like to call it loving accountability, believe it or not, because accountability can be really harsh and feedback can be not received well sometimes. So I just call it a little check-in just to see where they are, see if they've really kept to what their intention was to start with, and then also just how they're using that to support them. Because a lot of my clients with ADHD, it comes down to this level of support that really continues their path the way they want it to. And so, and also at the end of the year, I really review. So it's looking back and looking forward at the same time. And then putting that in places, again, we're highly, highly visual. Most of my clients are a combination of very visual people, but they're verbal processors. They like to talk through things a lot. So, as we're doing our check-ins, we're also talking things through, but we're putting that word intentionally into a place that they can find it. At this time of year, I do a lot of refocusing on planners and checklists with people. So we're just very intentional about where do we place this word so we see it often enough.
That's great advice, because I think, out of sight, out of mind. We have it, maybe it's even a Post-it note on our mirror in the bathroom, because those daily affirmations really are kind of key too. So, I think this is great. We're just about done here. Any other advice before we go that you want to just wrap it up on this keyword theme?
Well, my clients struggle a lot with perfectionism. So my key thing for you is, don't struggle too much with that. And if you get off track, which happens, just jump back on the carriage and start back up again. So your keyword can last you throughout the year, even if you think it's a misstep somewhere in the middle of the year.
Well, it's time for us to pause this podcast here and give you an opportunity to tell people what kinds of services you provide and how they can get a hold of you.
I love working with people with all sorts of challenges with ADHD. My work is professional-organizer.com, and I look forward to working with them or in the future.
Awesome. Well, Ellen, thank you so much. This has just been great. And we will have to check back in here in a month or two and see how each other is doing. I'm going to ask you about Expand. You better ask me about Pause, and we'll take it from there.
I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks so much, John.
You bet. All right. Well, folks, another key word that you have to think about too is return, which means come back next time for our next episode of Keeping You Organized.